magically happen? And now I've got me on twice because Random's changed the picture.
You gave it the old camel try.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone, to live news for April. At some point, I might be able to see myself on YouTube, but I believe it's working. So, you've got 3 of us here this month for news. So, we'll start with the traditional, what have we been up to? I had a bit of a run around with PayPal this month. They decided to close my personal account with no reason given. So normally they'll say, you're in violation of this, you need to fix that, and we'll reactivate your account. They didn't do that. They said, we're closing it, and the decision's final. So they may hold on to the funds that were in there for 180 days. And,
they'll probably just keep them. Dude, no, seriously. I think PayPal might be like some sort of bar bet of like, okay, we're going to build up a company and then we're going to crash it just to watch what people do.
Yeah.
It's insane. So my personal PayPal, where I got rid of them, was they basically helped somebody scam me, like try and pull a scam. And I was like, well, I submitted all evidence that it was a scam and that, that should be taken care of. And they were like, oh, fuck off. I'm like, hold on, watch what I do.
Muted.
Hold on.
Okay.
I was like, watch what I do. So before they basically just gave this person the money by default before I submitted the evidence within the timeline allowed. So I'm like, nope, fuck that. So I just unlinked my bank account, told them to go fuck themselves. And, you're going to eat the money. And so I stuck them with the fucking bill and walked away. And they deserve everything they got. So we also used them for merchandise, for Club Man. And somebody had ordered 4 patches, like a patch that you'd sew on your jacket, right? Mm-hmm. And it was in memorial to somebody that passed away. And literally the order was, hey, I need 4 of these patches, with this name. And they closed our account and said it was under investigation for gambling, right? There's no gambling. They said, oh, that's a sports score, right? So, of course, you get some sort of, Pakistani tech support who's like, I explained to them this is motorcycle patches. It's a physical thing that within our, organization somebody needed. And they're like, okay, yes, I do not know what that means. I'm like, well, of course you don't. So that was the end of that. So they literally closed the account. Then it said the money should be returned to us. And after like the 3 months or whatever, they were just like, oh, we're keeping the money for a fine. All of it, right? What's the fine? Well, what do you got in your wallet, So, yeah, PayPal, if you're using PayPal, you really shouldn't be. They have definitely turned into a very scummy, corrupt, dying entity.
Yeah, you do need to get out. So the book sales from Gumtree were not Gumtree. Is it Gumtree? What's it called? I can't remember what it's freaking called now. So I host the book on a site, and the PayPal was an option for people to use to buy it. And so that money would go in there, but I didn't leave it in PayPal. I would take it out and put it in my account, which is free. You can move that for free. And so apparently that triggers something, and they shut your account. They think you're up to no good. So I asked them, because I'd reached out to them through their stupid messaging system, because I'd followed through. They said like, oh, go to this page and go to the resolution center. So I do all that, and whichever route I choose through the resolution center, I end up on a page that says, no, your account's closed. So I contacted them and said, this is what I put. I said, that's helpful. You close my account with no reason given and may hold my funds for perhaps 6 months. Great way to do business. I hope it doesn't catch on. And then within 5 minutes, I got a message back saying, we've unlocked your account. You can use it again. And then the next day, I got an offer. Oh, you're eligible for PayPal credit card. And I'm like, fuck you. So I removed the PayPal option from the book sales. So it's not an option anymore. You have to use a credit card, unfortunately, because I just don't want the hassle of PayPal. And the only downside to me is I get paid all the sales every Friday instead of instantly into PayPal. So no biggie. PayPal can go and do one. But we do have our donations in there, so maybe there's a better option for the future. So podcast-wise, so I've got, or I did have, well, I've still got every recording we've ever done on this podcast, but I had them all saved in WAV format. So some of them I do go back to and listen to and pull bits out, when I was researching the book and things, and I've used bits of old footage. But I really don't need them in WAV format anymore. So I went back and converted them all into 320 kilobit MP3s. So you lose like minimal quality, and we only put the show out in like 48 anyway.
Minimal quality, funny enough.
So I'd saved myself 244 gig in the process, which was good. And while I was trawling through all that, I found 2 interviews that we've never aired before. So one of them you will have heard already with Magnus Anderson, the author. And next month you will hear Jeremy Cook. There were 2 that I did on a day when I went down to Cambridge. They had an all-day thing with like 5 or 6 speakers on, and I was hosting the day. And for some reason, I'd forgotten I'd got this footage because I wanted... I was chasing Jason from the museum. Can you send me the audio from this? And he never got round to it. But then I had it anyway, it turns out. So they're from 2014, but still interesting nonetheless. So you will have heard one and you'll hear another next month. Movies-wise, not watched a great deal that you'd be interested in, really. I did watch X, which is a new sort of horror movie. It's set in 1979 and it's filmed like, it looks a bit like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the film they've used and the colours and what have you. But it's done on purpose, and it's just a group of kids who go out and rent a barn in the middle of nowhere on some hillbilly farm, and they go out there and make a porno movie. So there's some TNA in it, a few jump scares, bit of gore. So it's worth a watch if you've nothing better to do.
During the porn.
Yeah. Pretty much in one scene anyway.
Be a great jump scare.
Yeah. TV wise, Peaky Blinders finished, UK show, so I watched the last of them. Like most of the season, starts off a bit slow until they get all the intricate storylines, built and what have you. So I did enjoy it. First couple of episodes a bit slow, but good show. Did enjoy it. Well worth a watch. I watched a show on Netflix. It's an American show called Murderville. But unbeknown to me, until I started reading about it, I'd watched them all. There's only 6. It's based on a UK show called Murder in Successville. So the premise is there's like the same 3 or 4 actors in, a detective, a sergeant, and a couple of other characters are regulars. But there's and each week they have a celebrity on. But the celebrity doesn't have the script, he doesn't have lines, and they go to different scenes and interview people. And so the celebrities ad-libbing, and they have to work out at the end, who killed the victim kind of thing. Pretty funny. There's one, who's the... I don't think he's actually Chinese. Is he Thai or something? He was in The Hangover. He's in one of the episodes of the American version. Pretty funny episode, and he's just cracking up all the time, and they're trying to film the scene, and he's literally laughing. But good show, interesting premise. Again, worth a watch. It's on 25-minute episodes, so you can burn through them. We finished watching Superstore, which is again 20-odd minute episodes. Just some great characters in there. It's a comedy set in, like a Walmart type thing called Cloud9, and it's just all the people who work there and the dumb customers that come in. But pretty funny show. There's quite a few seasons of that. It's pretty good. Book wise, I mentioned ages ago now, literally ages ago, that Smoke and Mirrors would at some point be available on Amazon. and they finally got around to, they kind of reformatted it because I did all the formatting myself, and so they're professional publishers. They've gone through and sort of closed the line spacing and changed the formatting a bit and things like that to make it a cheaper book to print on Amazon. Amazon do this, order print version, and they print off single copies. So they've reformatted all that. So I had to do an approval for that, just go through and check it. I found a couple of errors in there and sent them back. So they will send me another preview probably next week, I'm guessing. And then at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, Smoke and Mirrors will be available on Amazon. And obviously the beauty of that, if somebody buys, a gaming book, it might come up and say, oh, people who bought this also bought this, and you get yourself found a bit more easily. So hopefully that will shift a few.
The movie is just one
books.
notice away.
Games-wise, I haven't played, I don't think, a single game other than, what's the word one? Wordle. I've been playing Wordle every day, but I've just been busy. It's been a busy period. We've had family in town for a week, and I did some, home decorating and things like that. We got the weather's started to improve for the spring and the summer, so we've been out in the garden getting that ready for the summer. We've had a couple of barbecues already with people around, so it's just been a busy time doing, boring housey stuff, and just not really much time for playing games, unfortunately. So that is about me.
Well, in the interest of brevity, I don't have that much going on. Model-wise, I mean, just like you'll hear about in Horror Flashback, Eagle Moss has just completely fucked up their U.S. operation. I haven't gotten shit for parts in 4 months, so that's totally on pause. But I talked about in Horror Flashback, I just am in the middle of doing a big and beautiful all-metal scale model of a Patriot missile launcher I used to work on. And I've got some cool things I'm doing with the display. You heard about that in Harbor Flashback. So really, really cool stuff. Other than that, game-wise, I have been even though it's spring here, there's just been too many days where it's like 47 and windy outside. And I got 2 pretty significant outdoor projects, one vehicle, one airplane, I need to be working on. And I just don't, I'm not going to do that when it's 47 with the wind chill down to 41. So I've been spending too much time sitting inside, and I have become a total border slut. I have been playing Borderlands 2 pretty much nonstop, at least on an every other day basis. What a great game. It's definitely the Fallout 4 of that I've missed, that experience. Try a little bit of 3, try a little bit of prequel, try a little bit of Tiny Tina's. Just, tried, sample them all for a few minutes, and now I'm playing through number 2. And I can already tell, I'm using the Gunzerker faction, I can already tell I'm going to have to play through it with each major character. It is just such a great game. Really loving that to death. So that is about it for me and shenanigans.
Gaming wise, I'd had grand plans to get back to tidy up my office and sort of finally sort through all of my camping gear and sort of get back to Steel Battalion, but failed miserably there. I'd sort of played a load more Tunic, which I think I'd mentioned I'd started playing last month, up to the point where I'm sort of at the end trying to sort of hoover up the secrets, but struggling a bit with figuring out the puzzles. Just I'm either not thinking the right way or I'm not clever enough. Probably the latter. But great little game. Really fun way to use the instruction manual. Really well put together. Sort of very very reminiscent of the golden age of gaming. And I played a bunch of the new Kirby game. That's been a nice little sort of low stress, sort of just enjoyable. It's kind of like it's terms of sort of challenge, it's sub Mario Odyssey, but there's just lots of fun in going around exploring, finding all the extra hidden bits and pieces, and yeah, it's been quite good. And then I also sat down and dicked about updated my Pseudo Saturn cartridge because that was a bit out of date, and then dug out the Panzer Dragoon games and started sort of playing through them a bit because I've never really given them as much love as they probably deserve from someone who's sort of really into Star Fox and Res and sort of rail shooters and things, and Afterburner and the like. So yeah, sort of decided I should probably sit down, play them some more. So that's been fun, and wasn't I was going in thinking it was going to be a tougher play. They wouldn't have aged quite very well, but they're not. They hold up pretty well. Even the first one, which was very early Saturn. So that's it gaming wise. TV. We started Peaky Blinders and sort of dropped off it. I can't remember why. Watched all of the Russian Doll, the new series of that, and there was something else, but I can't remember. But Lego Masters Australia started up again, so we're sort of back on that train. It's always a good, enjoyable show. And film-wise, I think the only thing really of note was I watched Robert Eggers' 2019 film, The Lighthouse. Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, very sort of moody, black and white, sort of really sort of, yeah, I think it's sort of moody, thick is the kind of the general vibe. It's sort of based on a true story.
Reminds me of an old girlfriend.
Moody thick.
Was she black or white?
Oh.
No. Race Invaders won't have none of that.
So yeah, based on a true story. I think of a Welsh lighthouse keepers, but it's set in New England. I don't want to sort of spoil too much, but yeah, basically, younger guy goes to do a season out in this remote lighthouse with older guy who's been there for sort of years doing it, and yeah, it's just the way the two of them interact as they sort of have to sort of get used to, all right, we need to actually be nice to each other, but then soon sort of the isolation and the weather sort of make them go a bit crazy.
Seamus, you going to the party tonight? There's gonna be a lot of drinking, a lot of sex. Who's going? Me and you.
So, I forgot to mention as well. So, there's a series of books, 1001 X to do before you die. So, we interviewed Gaming Jay a couple of years ago, probably. He's playing his way through on YouTube 1001 video games to play before you die. He's going all the way through the book. And I picked up a few in the series. 1001 books to read, 1001 TV shows to watch, 1001 movies to watch. There are others in the series as well that I've got and will get to. So I found a few good shows on there, some old dramas and things that we've enjoyed, and I'm sort of going through some old. I love the old, what they called, noir movies, crime noir, whatever they're called. The old Bogart stuff and things like that. So I'm going through some of those. But there was, in the book one, there's an interesting one. I've got it. I think it's next on my list to read, and it's called, something random said reminded me of it. It's called John Dies at the End. It's like a bit of a sci-fi thing. And there's a few in the series with, humorous titles, but that one tickled me. So that's what else I've been doing. Which I think brings us up to some news items. And Random sent in the first one. First two.
Well, yeah, the first two. I'll go with the second one because that's one I've got sort of open and sort of followed on from a bit of a conversation we had earlier about Wario Land that was kind of recolored and sort of remastered almost for the Game Boy Color, but didn't really add anything else particularly. You could argue with the Game Boy Color situation that actually does enhance the game quite a bit because it makes things potentially a bit easier to see. But we've seen in the past people have gone back and recolored some of the Game Boy games and made them essentially Game Boy Color exclusive. And the first Wario Land, which was Super Mario Land 3, has been done. And I sent this in, but it was also sent in by David Cameltrick. That's another callback to the top 10. Yeah, and it's what it says on the tin, basically. It's a very good game, Wario Land, and it's now in colour, so that's worth checking out. And my other one was, it just missed out last month's live news, and the Forest of Illusion, they announced that they had released the full source code to the first Wipeout by Psygnosis. It's got the PlayStation source code as well as the Windows port. It's sort of unknown at the moment how buildable they were, or at least at the time of writing. Whether we'll get any there's enough interest to really sort of dig deep and make a modern version of it. We don't know, but that'd be quite cool if they sort of bring it up to date, put ray tracing in it, which is sort of what they've been doing with the Mario source code and things like that. I think that's a game with all the lighting effects and weapons that could look really good with some sort of modern lighting effects. You could argue that maybe you just play one of the more modern sort of Wipeout inspired games, but I think there's some merit in bringing that up to date.
So you might have to
Got
play
one here from Mr. James.
Yeah.
And it is something that I saw before, and it's a nonsensical mishmash of excuses, it seems. Breath of the Wild 2 delayed until spring of 2023. So they released Breath of the Wild near the launch of the Switch. I remember, God, that was back during the immediate aftermath of the Chameleon. It's been a while. They just need longer, I guess. So, although I smell a little trouble brewing here, I'm curious what you guys think. They had talked before about doing, trying to go to the sky, right? And I thought that the hang glider was a really good implement that worked exceptionally well in Zelda. However, when you got into those sort of funky bird levels and all that, I don't know, it wasn't too bad, but it really wasn't amazing. And as I recall, they've tried to kind of go in this direction before. It's not coming to me what it was. But here, like when they're asked, like, hey, so it's supposed to be out now and could have been out like 4 years ago, where is it at? So they sort of said, well, for those of you that have been looking forward to release this year, we apologize. As previously announced, the adventure in this sequel will take place not just on the ground, but also in the skies above. However, the expanded world goes beyond that. There will be even wider variety of features you can enjoy, including new encounters and gameplay elements. So, I don't know. What that concerns me is that this wonky sky idea might not be going so well, and they're trying to retool. So, not the most encouraging thing I have heard thus far.
No.
Yeah, so I think the one you're referring to is Skyward Sword.
That's it. Yeah.
Previous, that was the last one before Breath of the Wild, wasn't it?
Yeah, after.
And so there was a six year gap between Skyward and Breath of the Wild. So we're coming up on another 6 years. So it's not massively out of the realm of the development cycle for a Zelda. But obviously they did sort of announce this one quite early and show some footage early on. They showed a bit more footage this time. I don't know. I think I'd rather, Skyward Sword didn't get a great reception, and Twilight Princess as well to a degree. So I think I'd rather they sort of, if they had looked at it and said, this maybe isn't quite the quality that we want. Let's sort of give it a bit more time cooking. I think I'd probably rather that than another one of a Skyward Sword sort of level Zelda game. I don't know.
So, some sad news. Scott Benny, the writer, or one of the writers certainly, on Interplay's Lord of the Rings, Star Trek, Fallout, and others, has passed away this last month. And something else that might have passed away, although it could return, is E3 2022. Not only did they cancel the physical expo, they've also cancelled the digital one. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm surprised they cancelled the digital one.
Yeah, they had a specific comment on that sounds really damning. It says here, sources connected to the event tell IGN that discussions about a possible digital event have been ongoing ever since they decided not to have it. Actually, let me back up just a little bit because this kind of all blends together, okay? The ESA had initially planned for an in-person E3 event this year after having no event in 2020 due to COVID-19 and digital one in 2021. However, this was canceled in January with the ESA at the time unable to make a public statement about whether or not there would be a digital equivalent. According to sources speaking to IGN at the time, the discussions around E3 had been fraught throughout the year, with third parties normally involved finding the ESA's ongoing silence regarding their plans frustrating. So it sounds to me like the planning didn't go so well. I don't know what, LA where they hold it has been still jumping in and out of the mask hysteria thing, which is largely dead everywhere else. That I think that and like Philly and New York, and it's just dead. So I don't know. They got stadiums full of people. It seems to me like the thing may have just stalled and lost momentum. Because here it says, without a strong momentum to drive it, the ESA has no plans for a digital equivalent. Then it says they plan to regroup and come back for a larger, better 2023. I don't know, man. It sounds to me like this whole thing just lost momentum and they couldn't get together a physical one. They couldn't get together a digital. Maybe just the publishers and industry players have siloed up and said, you know what? We're just going to keep re-rolling crap content, selling fucking amiibos and peddling EFTs. And why even bother to go to game conferences anymore since we're not in the games business? So that's my 10 cents.
Yeah.
Well, even before the pandemic, it was on the decline.
It was on the decline, yes.
Yes, Sony had backed out of it. Nintendo had backed out of it. And the pandemic just kind of hit more of it home because everyone sort of pivoted to their own digital. They don't have to do a press conference; they can just do or even just host their own show, in their own arena, but just stream it out, whenever they want, whatever they want. Doesn't have to be under the ESA's banner.
Why fill an enormous room and have an audience just to come out and go, hey, we know you were expecting Fallout 5, but look at this EFT. It's a picture of Fallout 5, the box.
But then you've also got the problem now. So you had all these different big publishers having their different shows, but Microsoft's going to own them all. So, Microsoft have already announced that in June, they're having what they're now calling the Microsoft and Bethesda show.
Yeah.
So rather than just saying it's Microsoft and showing the Bethesda games, they're at least maybe sort of giving them a bit of a billing because they used to have their own stage show that was, fairly bombastic at times. But, with everyone, the consolidation that's happening, you're just going to end up with, 1, 2 to 3 big streams anyway. You're not going to have all of the shows. So,
I think we're just headed for a very bleak time of digital dumping grounds and oddball things that aren't games. So, yeah, why hold a conference, right?
Yeah. Well, there's one conference coming back, and I'm predicting a future headline. So, Portland Retro Gaming Expo is back this year, October 14th to 16th. And I predict a future headline: video game players mugged in broad daylight.
Yeah, fuck that.
I mean, how safe is it? It can't be. It can't be.
No,
surely.
no. I mean, look, I did two tours in the Middle East and a tour in Bosnia. Okay, no. And largely, it's not so much that you fear the environment; it's that the good guys are disarmed there, and the bad guys have been emboldened. First of all, look, nothing but love and respect for the guys over at Portland, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta tell you, man, like when we did CGE, I sat there in the hotel room. Chuck whipped open his laptop because we were just talking about expo growth and all. They were nothing but accommodating. They came and exhibited. We go to, in the past, we've gone to their expo. Love those guys. I hope to God they move this thing.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to run an expo.
Yeah.
They have the best website, videogameexpo.com, I think. They got a brilliant website. Yeah, I mean, how brilliant is that, right? They know how to run an effective expo. They have grown it consistently. Like when we were looking at membership numbers, attendance growth, everything else, he hid nothing. He's, hey, let me show you what we're doing. I'm like, well, here's what we did. And just great guys. So I do mean no disrespect to them. Unfortunately, the powers that be let that city turn into a goddamn anarchist fuckfest. I mean, it is unsafe for normal people to be there. And if you defend yourself, you can then face legal troubles that you don't need. So there's no way. And Mike, you remember the scene that played out at the Murder Hotel?
Yes.
All right, so what I'm referring to for the listeners is Mike got a taste of near the airport Portland, right? That's now maybe the best of Portland. It has definitely fallen into a state of utter calamity. And they go, no, it's not that bad. It's a normal city during the daytime, and things have come. It's a shithole, and there's no way I am going to Portland, for nothing else than how they behaved throughout a 1.5 year long orgy of violence, where I'm talking normal people driving home, some mom with her kids driving home in a minivan, and they're being assaulted, accosted by a fucking mob, and the police, by orders, sit on their hands and watch it happen. But if Miss Soccer Mom were to dismount that vehicle and start stacking bodies to protect her kids, then the police would respond. So, no, fuck Portland, not going back ever, and I stand by that. So, my only appeal to those guys is move it. You go run an expo someplace else. I don't mean move it to Seattle. That's where move it to someplace nice that isn't Portland. Portland's done. I can't think of many people. What are you gonna do? You're gonna go down by downtown at night anymore? Absolutely not. No. So I'm a bit confounded that they chose to do it again in Portland. I don't know what attendance is going to look like. I imagine a lot of people who don't think these things through will just show up. Mm-hmm. And good luck to them, but no.
So good luck to somebody else, and this is a bunch of kids. So the Joy-Con drift argument has been going on, and some parents sued on behalf of their kids whose Joy-Cons were drifting. And the legalese got involved and said, well, you can't sue somebody on someone else's behalf. They have to sue. So now the parents are all trying to get like a class action involving all the kids. So there might be developments since I sent this in. I haven't kept up with it, but a bunch of kids are hoping to sue Nintendo for Joy-Con drift.
Good luck.
That's
I'm sure their lawyers are better paid than Nintendo's.
You know what? You're not going to outlaw your Nintendo, are you? Right?
No.
So, short of finding the literal fucking real life equivalent of Saul Goodman, I think they should. You know what they should do? They should make the adorable sympathy play and have a kid lawyer. How great would it freaking be? Get like you ever see one of those like really well spoken like 5-year-olds that sounds like a 12-year-old, you know, and you're like really just on top of things. How great would it freaking be to have you know, the kid lawyer? I mean, you gotta have like his sleeves are like 6 inches longer than his hands, so he has to pull back the sleeve, and he throws in little jokes, right? And he's gotta have like some thick glasses. So the judge up there, have you filed your briefs? And he's like, hold on, I'm looking for my briefs. And he pulls out like his underwear. I found them. Just kidding, Judge. And you know, kid the whole thing up, right? Your Honor, if it pleases the court, this guy's a jerk. He broke my joystick. I mean, it would be great, man. How couldn't they win?
Yeah. Some kid in his dad's suit.
Oh, it would be the best. I'd tune in every day.
Got one here from To The Dave, and he has sent in a video of Gex Junior demo for the PlayStation that has been released. He says it's hard to believe Gex used to be a thing, and I feel like, at least in sort of a bit of the sort of more modern gaming sort of circles, there's been a lot of talk about Gex this year, and I don't really get it particularly because it was never seemed like it was a thing over here particularly, and it got released and everything, but yeah,
I think there were three. Were there 3 games? Was the original and then 2 sequels?
Enter the Gecko and I think just the first one.
I know there's at least 2.
So it may have been 2. Yeah.
And they had, I mean, they changed. So it was it Dana Gould did the voice for the American one, and then they changed it to, I can't remember who, just some rando for the UK one, which is probably why it probably lost, you know, the star power for the marketing. But yeah, it's not really something that I've ever really had any desire to sort of hunt down and check out, really.
Which brings us on to 9 forgotten video game mascots. Maybe he's on that list.
Darn it, I had that one pulled up.
Well, you can do it. I was just making a segue.
It was a great segue.
I
Go
know.
right ahead.
I know. So I have got it open if you have closed it, and this is, as it says on the tin, 9 forgotten video game mascots that couldn't rival Mario and Sonic. The first one is Roland, who was on... What was he on? I was trying to scroll down and find it. Amstrad. That was it, yeah. Was it them who had Cuthbert as well, or was Cuthbert on the Dragon? The other one is Opa Opa, who was a Sega thing. Was he in Fantasy Zone and then got his own game as a sequel? Yeah. Aero the Acrobat. Yeah. Pretty forgettable, though. I'm not surprised he's forgotten. Pitfall Harry. Is he a mascot and is he forgotten? I mean...
Was he... Yeah, not in Television. Activision use him as a mascot? I don't know. I mean, we'll get back into the whole semantics of what makes an actual mascot if we're not careful.
Careful.
We don't want to dredge that back up again.
Number 5 is Ristar. Number 6 is James Pond. And the interview I told you about that's coming next month, there is some James Pond talk in there. And they have tried to bring it back. It just hasn't happened yet. Maybe it will in the future. Kid Clown is the other. That's not one I know. It's on the SNES. Kid Clown in Crazy Chase. Not a game I know. Our favourite, of course, Dizzy. He's not forgotten. Still
He's
Dizzy
not forgotten,
games coming
no.
out. Come on.
Yeah, you have to be remembered to be forgotten.
Yeah. And the other one, number 9, is Polygon Man, who is every major console had his blah, 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 blah. He looks to be an advertising thing rather than a video game character, and not one I knew about at the time. So I couldn't have forgotten him because I never knew about him. So there you go.
Yeah, I don't think they used him for the European PlayStation advertising. I think they were just sticking fucking Lara Croft everywhere, weren't they?
Yeah. Who knows anything about the game Valis?
I've heard of it.
Well, there's a new collection, and it includes some missing games, but still doesn't have the Genesis port of Valis 3. This one from Lazy Dave. It's not a game I'm familiar with at all. It looks Japanese from the Japanese writing and the Japanese characters on the picture on the link. That is about all I know about it, to be perfectly honest.
What a detective you are, Mike.
I am. All these links, of course, will be in the show notes, and you should check them out.
Writing seems Asian of some sort.
I sure started in the MSX, did it? Interesting.
Yeah.
So, a very long article here submitted by Northern UK. And I scanned, read through this ahead of time and all. And it's one that I think it's really a long article to summarize. And it's titled "The Erosion of Ownership." 10 years ago this month, and it's more or less the erosion of ownership. Like, as I've talked about so many times, it used to be the arrangement was I go to the store, I gave them $48, I got Heavy Barrel or Operation Wolf, I took it home, put it in my NES, and I could trade it, sell it, put it on my shelf, pull it out 30 years later, plug it in the SNES, and play it. Or the NES, I'm sorry. So it was, I think that's as it should be. Well, that's all being collectively eroded to, what am I getting? I'm buying a license to play it so long as you think I still can play it. I'm not okay with any of these things. So let's see here. I'll just give you the top paragraph or two. Reports of always online next-gen systems and on-disc DLC raised questions about what consumers are actually getting when they buy a game. Yes, the games industry moves pretty fast, and there's a tendency for all involved to look constantly to what's next without so much worry about what came before. That said, even an industry so entrenched in the now can learn from its past. So to refresh our collective memory and perhaps offer some perspective on our field's history, GameBiz runs this monthly feature highlighting happenings in the industry from exactly a decade ago. So they're talking about the Mass Effect 3. And it is a lot of the God, there's so many cases. I wish I could just grab one case here. The damn thing is like a book, okay? Basically, it's a book online. And some of it they're saying was a little too inflated concerns, like on-disc DLC. Some of it went away, some of it hasn't. They're talking about good ideas, bad ideas in hindsight. It's a heck of a read. I would definitely suggest this one. I think it's a pretty good retrospective because 10 years goes by pretty fast. And okay, in 10 years, what will it be? What literally will and won't be available? What will the model? Will they succeed? And because 10 years ago they wanted to eliminate the drive, the media drive from consoles. In 10 years, will they have succeeded with that? I think so. So, interesting look back.
Yeah, it is a long article, but definitely an interesting read. And just jumping ahead, there is another one about games being delisted from David Gyrick. And Sega are delisting standalone versions of Sonic 1, 2, 3, and CD from all their digital stores ahead of the release of Sonic Origins. So even somebody as big as Sega and something as massive as Sonic is being delisted. I mean, we've all got ways to play it.
I was going to say, how are we ever going to play Sonic again?
But there are people who
Sonic
don't.
wouldn't be available.
Yeah. But yeah, it just goes to show it can happen to anyone, even a mascot as massive as Sonic.
I'll just have to reach over to my shelf and pick up the physical cartridge that still works.
Yeah.
That's a sort of slight aside, amusing aside about that is in their ridiculous pre-order matrix that they had to put out. It sort of mentioned that on the PC they're going to use Denuvo DRM, which is universally hated, but also like you're DRMing like the original Sonic, as if no one can fucking steal it.
That'll show them.
Yeah.
So there's one here sent in, I believe, by me. And it's a book by Brett Weiss. And it's a follow-up to one we've mentioned before, the NES Omnibus, the Nintendo Entertainment System and its games. And this is Volume 2, covering the letters M through to Z, as you say over there. So you can pick that up from brettweiss.square.site. I thought he had a .com. Maybe he does, but that's the link I found anyway. So go over to Brett's site if you fancy picking up the sequel to the book you bought last time we mentioned it.
Another one sent in by one Michael James. And this is something I'm kind of excited about, and surprised not anyone else has actually sent it in this month, I don't think. But it's the announcement by Ron Gilbert that he kind of did as a bit of a joke of a April 1st, sort of April Fool's reveal. But he's got together with Dave Grossman to return to making Monkey Island together with Devolver Digital, which I thought was kind of interesting. I wondered if it might have ended up somehow in Microsoft's stable, but that's, of course, Double Fine. It went that way. And this is going to be released this year, and he kind of wants it to carry on where sort of 2 left off, rather than where the series went with 3, 4, and the Telltale ones. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be a return to form and a good Monkey Island adventure game. Be good. Keep an eye on it, kids.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one as well. So I got a message via our forums, the Contact Us form on our forums, and for once it wasn't junk and someone trying to sell me drugs. Hi guys, I'm a long-time fan of your podcast. Late last year, my brother and I wrote our first retro-inspired game called Pangaroids and put it on Steam for free so everyone can enjoy it. It's inspired by old-school arcade classics, including Pang and Asteroids, Commodore 64 and Amiga 500 games, and a simpler time when games didn't have to be hundreds of hours long. We've crafted a short game that we hope takes you back to that nostalgic time, and there will be a link to Pangaroids on the Steam store in the show notes. So thank you for sending that, and thank you for not making it trying to sell me Viagra or something, which is what I usually get from the forums.
I need to get some cream for my Pangaroids. So, one that I sent in, that I came across. This is someone that's, it's not a radical thing to put a Raspberry Pi inside something, but they've kind of quite neatly put a Raspberry Pi Zero inside a cassette tape, which is then they've got like a sort of authentic Boots C15 computer cassette with the handwritten ZX Spectrum compilation written on the top of it. It of course runs a ZX Spectrum emulator, and yeah, it's just a neat little curiosity, I guess, of a sort of an era appropriate Spectrum tape looking case for playing your actual Spectrum emulation on. Kind of cool.
So I did see that when it came in, and I was pleased to see it, that someone does something with the Pi, but I was disappointed because the cassette doesn't do anything. It'd be great if you put it in a cassette player and it used the mechanism to rotate something that did something, and, maybe powered it or whatever.
Have it so that you've got the Pi, the tape's one of those cassette tape adapters that you used to have, your car stereo.
Yeah.
And it's wired up internally to the audio output of the Pi. You just plug the cassette tape into your thing, and it plays, randomly from your collection of 100 gigabytes worth of MP3s.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys. Sorry about that. Anybody hit the Doom one yet?
No.
Nope.
Okay. So, got one here from David Gyrich. Thank you, David, for all these wonderful submissions. And it's Ray Trace Doom. So here's the funny thing, silly me. I hit play and I'm taking a look at this. I'm like, well, it just looks like Doom. It doesn't look any different. And then they pause it and the screen, that sort of that presto changeo thing goes by. Wow, holy crap, man.
Yeah.
It's got like, you can read the data on the monitors that are in the rooms. The lighting effects are like off the hook. This thing looks amazing. I am truly blown away by this.
It's fucking cool. I was playing it a couple of weeks ago. One of our sort of Thursday game nights that we have. We were waiting for someone to dick about with they couldn't get their multiplayer accounts working, and I was just running around, just absolutely in awe, just flying like, it's just such a. Some of the levels kind of break because then obviously never been designed to have this kind of lighting, but then you get a flashlight on you that you can turn on for places that are a bit too dark, and it just makes everything look so cool. It's amazing.
I did the same
Really
thing as
cool
you
way to
though,
play
Scott. I started watching the video and I'm like, Doom always look like that. What is ray tracing anyway? Yeah. It's a slow burn.
I got another one here submitted by none other than Mike James. And Mike, I know exactly what this is. I'm curious why you posted it and so much of it. The Willys Jeep.
Oh yeah.
I can't help but notice you dedicated a page of like 100 photos and history, all kinds of cool stuff. Kind of rando.
Yeah, it's a great read, and well, it's not so much a read. There is a bit of text, but it's mainly pictures. But every so often, I get an email from Paula's dad, who's like in a group because they used to winter in Palm Springs, so he's friendly with loads of Americans and Canadians, and they have an email group, and they just send each other random, interesting emails, and he forwards the good ones onto me, and that was one of them. So I thought it's kind of retro, so I thought we would share it. It's some good pictures on there.
Yeah, so just quick side note. If they're in the area, tell them to stop by. I can get them a trip through a tank restoration museum. And, of course, I've got a Frag 4 armored Humvee that they could just drive around in and play if they like old military vehicles. So, man, I got to tell you, the Willys Jeep, so I like a lot of folks, I think, know this. It was the Jeep used in World War II. And they put out a requirement. They're like, look, we need a Jeep. And there's a number of companies that submitted them. Willys was not really the winning original bid. There's so much history to how they got chosen. But ultimately, it was originally, I think, the Bantam Midget Car Company was the chosen one. It is a dead simple four-wheel drive Jeep that defined the format that's still around today. These things, they had made, one of the things that in Mike's text here that they were talking about said that they had so many it would depress the prices in the auto industry if they sold them. Well, that may have been true in some places. I know that they were available for purchase. The problem is they didn't have any safety standards, none whatsoever. They were built to be used for about 30 to 60 days in war, and then taken apart, and the bits still working were used as parts to repair the other ones. And it was said that every GI had his own Jeep. That's how many they made. So the neat thing about the Willys Jeep, when I was not quite a teenager, early teenager, and you're starting to think about getting a car or whatever, there was a publication called Shotgun News, and it had all sorts of cool gun stuff, ammo. You could order guns and ammo from the catalog directly. Well, there's a lot of surplus places in there where you could get World War II helmets or whatever. And even in the 80s, there was so much of this stuff that it was just piled up. I mean, there's still warehouses that were selling off of World War II stuff. I remember I used to go up to Oshkosh all the time for the air show there. And I'd go to the vendors tables, and there would be just buckets and crates full of the most amazing parts. Many of them, I remember seeing a cylinder head for a P-51 Mustang, and it was $30. And my parents were like, where the hell are you going to put that? How are you going to get that home on a plane? Oh, you can't have one. But that's how readily available the stuff was. Well, this magazine, I remember you could buy And I think it was either $100 or it was $200. It was some oddly specific number like that. And then like shipping. So it cost you like $80 truck shipping to get it. But for well under $500, you could buy a Willys Jeep. And the only catch was when before they could sell them, they had to cut them in half. So they were sold as parts only. Well, it wasn't that hard to, repair them and even just buying 2 frame rails to put them in working order. So a lot of people did buy them just for the motors or just for axles to make trailers, but yet still other people bought them and put them back into commission. So I've driven them. They're not as civilized as most vehicles you would expect. They're their own thing, but definitely a hell of a cool piece of history.
Yeah. So another piece of history. Max Payne is back, which I'm not too excited about. But is it Max Payne? Random will probably know. That starts off in like an underground in the subway. I think I'm thinking of Max Payne because I remember I had a friend who he wanted to play Max Payne and he'd had it for like a couple of weeks and he was still stuck on the first level. You start in a subway and like you open this door and there's 3 guys inside. And is it that one you could slow time down while you're shooting?
Yeah,
as well?
It was the first kind of bullet time dodging.
Yeah, so like
shenanigans.
I said, give it here, let's have a go. Kicked the door open, slowed down time, shot these 3 guys with a headshot, gave him the controller back, and he's like, what the fuck? I've been trying that for 2 weeks. But yes, Max Payne is coming back, according to David Gyrick and the link that he sent.
Yeah, it's one for years that I've always been thinking I should play through. And then, yeah, this is going to be interesting because they're not just sort of doing... Sounds like they're not just doing like, a remaster of the 2 sort of individually. They're going to combine them into one game. But as far as I know, the storylines don't sort of, they're not direct follow-on in the sequel. So, yeah, I don't know what they're going to do there.
And another one from Lazy Dave, Power Instinct re-release. And he says, it seems like all fighters of that era went heavy on stereotypes. And judging from the screenshots here, they do. And I'm going to tell you no more about it because it's a beat-em-up. But thank you, Dave, anyway.
Yeah.
Do keep sending them in. Just I won't read the fighters anymore.
The short story was, I think they'd announced they wanted to do a sort of a remake of the game, and then they've since decided that actually it's probably not going to be. We're going to get people complaining at us, aren't we?
God,
let's not bother. But yeah, I mean, we should maybe get Dave to come on and just read out all of his own news for us, and we can have a break because he sent another one here. It says goodbye, Ms Pacman, which is a link to a Twitter, which they at Games own the royalties to Ms Pacman. So the future games are going to have Pac Mom instead, which included on the Pac-Land release, which was at the Switch that they just brought that out on the service there. And there's also an upcoming Pac-Man Museum Plus coming along, which again it's going to have changed Ms Pacman into Pac Mom.
Ridiculous.
This is beyond ridiculous. I have got 3 different 2 Ms Pacmans and a Pac-Man in my house, and I can play it any goddamn time I want. I've got it on RetroPie and every other thing. I mean, what don't you have Pac-Man on? So the only way you're going to get me, and in fact, I mean, who are you selling a compilation that includes Pac-Man or Ms Pacman 2 that probably doesn't already have a way to play it? So let's face it, you're not introducing it to a new audience. You're either selling it as a matter of convenience for people who can't get emulators to work or some other barrier in life, or you're going to have to make it into some sort of really cool, compelling package that makes us want to buy it again, which can be done, as I've said many times. You do the right mini console, the right flashback, the right cool micro arcade game, like these little 3-inch, 2-inch tall mini arcade games. I got every one of those there is. One of them is Ms Pacman. One of them is Pac-Man. And I bought that happily. That's how you sell a game again, is you make it in an interesting or compelling format. Saying, well, due to legal reasons, we're going to call it Pac-Bomb. Here's a collection of games you already own. I couldn't be less interested.
No. So, going from censoring gender to shaving your balls. Let's upset some people. It's that time again. Grab yourself the gift that keeps on trimming. Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have got you covered. Or, repeat after me, should I say uncovered. Join the over 2 million men around the world who trust Manscaped to keep their gentleman gardens in order. Go to manscaped.com and use the code RGRoundup for 20% off plus free shipping. Check out the Performance Package 4.0, which contains the Lawnmower 4.0, the landmark trimmer with its skin-safe technology. It's even waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver. Not only that, but you also get a pair of Manscaped anti-chafing boxers, which I am going to order another pair of because I really do like wearing mine. I had them on yesterday, and I put them in the wash, and I thought, should I put them in the wash or should I wear them inside out tomorrow? But no, I did put them in the wash, so I'm going to get myself some more pairs of those. And I'm going to use the code. Go on.
I'm still beating you then when I wore mine for like 3 days straight when I was backpacking.
Yeah. If that's
So
not
I was
enough
just
for
wondering, Random, when the trench coat flies open, what sort of topiary are the good folks looking at on the Sheffield subway?
At the moment, pretty trim because I did actually do mine again for when the summer weather. Well, that's summer. Well, I suppose it was kind of summer for the UK.
It was nice for
yeah,
a week.
As it got warmer, I did a bit of a general body hair trim to get a bit more comfort going.
Very nice. So, if that's not enough for you, you will also get the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. Again, waterproof and with a 9,000 RPM motor. All our listeners love technology, so get a load of this. It's wireless charging. Yes, wireless charging using electromagnetic induction. So help yourself reduce the risk of ingrown hairs and grooming accidents by checking out the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. And remember, it comes with 20% off plus free shipping with the code RGRoundup at manscaped.com. And we thank them for their patronage.
Something else we also thank is friend of the show, Mr. Leithco, who also sent in that Ms Pacman story. So thank you. Don't worry, listeners, about sending in duplicates. Just send them all in. We'll try and shout you out if we realise.
Because at the time, you don't know it's a duplicate.
No, nobody would. No reasonable person would.
No. On with the show. Somebody do one while I burp.
Okay. One here from Mike James. Under his orders, I shall read his thing. This is the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, or his foundation, now has a 96% stake in SNK. This follows after in 2020 they bought a controlling stake of 51%. Now they've upped that to essentially do the, pretty much have the whole thing now, but not quite. Wonder who's being stubborn and not selling out to the rest of it to them. I
remember doing a story about that a while ago now. He was picking up shares here, there, and everywhere. I wonder why. What's he going to do with it? Is it
what's
is it an
the
investment?
End goal?
Is it does he love SNK games? I mean, what's behind
maybe
that?
He's hoping they've got a load of old stock, and then he's going to send it to Wata and make all his money back.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So, back on the theme of digital games expiring, more of them are expiring on PS3 and Vita. I thought those platforms were pretty much unsupported now anyway. The games in
Oh,
particular.
they'll still expire shit on unsupported consoles. That they will support.
They kind of said, "Oh, we're closing the shop," and then everyone complained. They went, "All right, we won't close it quite yet, but yeah, it's coming, I think."
Yeah, the games mentioned here are Chrono Cross and a couple of others. I can't see it just scanning down quickly, but I think Chrono Cross might be the one that upset people.
Chrono Cross was the one that upset people and was obvious because they brought out the remaster, and then a bunch of people were like, "Oh, I bought that, didn't I, on the PS3? It was a PlayStation Classic. I'm going to download it again." And then it was like, "No, you can't download your games." And it happened with a bunch of other games, and well, whether it was intentional or not, it kind of got chalked down to some weird back-end bug to do with sort of dates and times, and it expired a bunch of stuff in the end, I think. But from what I know, it's all back to normal, but don't quote me on that because I've not gone and looked through because I downloaded all of my shit onto my PS3 hard drive quite a while ago. So I haven't had to go back and try and download any of it again.
So, rather than make a sequel to Breath of the Wild, Nintendo have gone into property development. They're buying land adjacent to their headquarters to expand. I wonder what they're going to do with the space. I don't know. Maybe store old copies of Donkey Kong, or I don't know. So they're not developing games very quickly, but they're buying more land and expanding. So what that means for the future of Nintendo releases, I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out.
They probably just
More
want to be able
slower
to see
paced
whoever's
mediocrity.
walking alongside. Get off my land.
Get off my land.
Dave again. He has sent in the Uniqlo announcement that they are bringing 16 Final Fantasy themed T-shirts to market. Kind of select through a selection of the game, so whichever one you're a fan of, or a couple of characters like Moogles and bits and pieces. Maybe you'll find something you like. Another Dave I know is a bit upset because it sounded like there was no talk yet on them coming to the UK stores, which has got him quite in a tizzy. But yeah, it's actually some fairly tasteful and cool looking T-shirts out of that bunch. So if you're a Final Fantasy fan and like other people to know about it, go check it out.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever, very rarely, I think have I ever pursued a shirt. If it's there in the store, I'll buy it. But I don't know. Make it easy, folks. Start distributing these products. So, speaking of distributing products, got one here from David Gyrich again. And again, Dave, thank you for all these submissions. Capcom is announcing that Capcom Arcade Second Stadium is bringing another 32 arcade classics to Switch, PS4, XB1, and PC. Sun will be available free download with this collection. And pre-orders, early purchases of Capcom Fighting Collections will also get 3 Wonders as a bonus at launch. So Capcom has done a pretty good job of releasing compilations. Again, I don't have a lot of need for most of these, but I'm glad they're out there. I mean, it's nice that this company and others, appreciate their heritage and will get products out there for the younger generation. Shit, at this point, I'd almost buy these kind of things on a physical format just to support physical formats. But yeah, they seem to be on the ball here.
One that I've just thought of, which isn't on here, I don't think. Speaking of sort of Nintendo delaying Breath of the Wild, they also announced with Miyamoto took control of the Nintendo US Twitter account and announced that the Mario film is going to be delayed, whether they're scared of how well Sonic's done and they don't want to be seen to have been beaten by Sonic. He's had 2 pretty good box office outings, I guess, now. Anyone who was looking forward to watching that this Christmas holiday period, that's now been pushed back to 2023.
Yeah, I did see that. I don't think anyone sent it in, but so there
I
might not
think
be a
so.
link in the show notes, but you heard it here first. I certainly heard it
Well,
here at
probably
some
did.
point. Not first, maybe.
So here's one I heard elsewhere, but it was sent in by Carl Klitsky here. And as always, thank you for the submission. This one is stupid. Not submitting things to us, that's really smart. But apparently some entity that bought the smoking remnants that was Radio Shack after they ran themselves out of business. Radio Token, a cryptocurrency, is backed by the 100-year-old brand Radio Shack that died. So no. Radio Shack, crypto, no, just stupid. I mean, the brand, that store had a very highly refined process of finding current products and utterly avoiding them. Finding out how do they actually pay their employees, and thus how can they eliminate paying the employees. So they got a progressively lower quality of employee, which was the only reason for going there. And it just all fell apart. And they had so much hubris and insanity as it was literally circling the drain. They would hear, all right, what's the number of complaint? Well, every time I go in there, I get harassed and bothered over shit I didn't go in there for when I don't have what I need. So what did they tell the company? You will bother everybody that comes through the door and get them to buy a cell phone. If you don't succeed, we will fire you and your family will starve. And people are like, fuck this. So yeah, giant train wreck. So no.
So our second Steam game we got sent this month is from Yule. And he says, this is a high difficulty platform game in which the player's aim skills are used to climb mountains. Clicking on the target scattered around the stage activates the main character's jump and the player climbs upwards. The game is called Aim Skill, and it's a climbing game, as he says, and it's available on Steam. Link will be in the show notes. So thank you for sending that, Yule.
I got one here from Mike James. And it's Pinball, A Graphic History of the Silver Ball. Now, this is off of Pinball News, whom I know and trust and like those guys. The only problem is at the moment, the page isn't loading, but I've read probably every article that's been across Pinball News since they started. So as soon as this is working again, I'll have a look at. Oh no, it just finally popped in after like 3 minutes. So yeah, it looks like a big compilation of playfields and some of the old great comics where oh wow, yeah, it's a nice little time capsule. So it looks like it's coming out as a book, and wow, that is cool. A nice tabletop book, a graphic history of the Silver Ball by author John Chad. So that is pretty cool.
It is.
I've got one again from David Gyrick. He says it's a very long saga, and this one is another YouTube video by Carl Jobs, who I think we last featured when he was discussing the Water and Heritage Auctions shenanigans. I think that was featured on the show. If not, it was certainly shared around our groups.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And this is Billy Mitchell, who's been accused of extorting various witnesses and people to do with the various sort of lawsuits and stuff he's got going on about his reputation. So it's probably not going to be too far before we get enough of these villains together. We can have like the top 10. SoCal and Tommy Tallarico and Billy Mitchell and
top 10 video game
right,
villains.
Make a right party of it.
Wow. Might make a note of that. One here from David Gyrick, and this one I do like. I didn't like the beat 'em up, but I do like this one. It is a video which shows a Resident Evil 1 fan remake done in first person. I haven't looked into, if you can download it and play a bit of it or whatever when it's ready, but I did watch the video, and it is, as it says on the tin, the first Resident Evil game done in first person. And the nice thing about it is you open a door and you don't have to wait for the animation while they load the next bit. So I'm assuming it's on PC.
Modern technology.
I know. Yeah. So interesting project, interesting video. I don't know if I'll go back and replay it. I don't know. I don't know if it still
And
uses.
we're putting this on 50-year flash,
Yeah.
so that the game will be available.
I don't know if
That's
you
good.
still have to use the tank controls or not, but last time I went back to an early Resident Evil, it felt very dated because of that. So I don't know if this is the same or not, but interesting project nonetheless.
I would have thought they'd sort of based it on Resident Evil 7 and 8 controls.
I would hope
which
so.
obviously, which were the ones that shifted to first person,
Yeah.
and quite good for it.
So what's this one? Again from David Gyrick. His job is sending us news items, and he's very good at it. Only some of them have ads at the start. And I've talked for 5 seconds now, so the video's loaded. This is Super Mario Brothers anime remastered. So I'm just clicking through, and it is a Super Mario Brothers cartoon. I'm not sure why they need to remaster it. They've done it in 4K. Is there any point in upgrading a cartoon to 4K?
I think not.
I think not as well, but
Because you
I mean,
can.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got the what do you call it? The Mario Brothers Super Show, Legend of Zelda, up on Plex,
Mhm.
Always liked that cartoon. I always liked Legend of Zelda. I thought that was a great freaking cartoon.
Yeah, I've got some
Every
of the Zelda
Friday they'd
ones.
play Legend of Zelda. So.
Mm.
So got one here. Let's see who submitted it. David Gyrich. I should just attribute all of them to David Gyrich this month and save me time. So Jason Momoa, I guess it's the Drago. Yeah, Drago, the horse guy
Mhm.
from
Game
that
of
place
you
with
mean
castles and
Aquaman?
shit.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's it. Castles and shit. So so anyway, he is apparently playing a main character in Minecraft. Video game movies, right? When will we learn? There are very few that are good. The ones that I think are good, most people think are bad. And there's very few that people think are good. So I don't know what it is about the inability of video games to really make a successful movie product, but I'm sure something with no plot, no point, but beloved by millions might actually work out.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Something that probably won't work out, unfortunately, because I'm a fan of both these franchises. Another one in the David Gyrick block. This is the news that Sega said they wanted to reboot Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio as part of their, I can't remember what something called like their big game initiative or something. Allegedly going to throw a big budget into this. They want to chase Fortnite riches, apparently, which I just don't see they're going to pull that off. And it certainly seems like weird franchises to bring back to do it. But however, if they went the Tetris 99 approach, especially with Crazy Taxi, and so you had 100 taxi drivers in a city, basically the same game. But you're competing to pick the people up. The city can sort of shrink by closing off roads as you would in a battle royale, and then obviously the elimination factor is as you run out of your time, rather than it just being the arcade, game over, put in a credit, you're out for that round. And because obviously you're fighting for the same customers, you're going to spend waste time going to the next customer. I think that could be kind of interesting, could have some legs there, but I don't see how you can really sort of do a Fortnite with it and sell all the fucking bullshit cosmetics that is what they'd be hoping to do, no doubt. I mean, I suppose you can have taxi skins and different Hawaiian shirts and things, but yeah.
Yeah, this seems like super pointless and nonsensical.
I think it will probably not do very well.
Yeah, I wonder if if the Fortnite guys knew that it was going to be the hit that it was, you know.
Oh well, no, because I mean, the Fortnite was not at all what Fortnite became. It was, you know, and they basically tacked on what Fortnite is. The mechanic, you know, the battle royale mechanics based on sort of, you know, seeing that other battle royale games were becoming quite big, so they were like, right, well, we'll slap that onto Fortnite as a mode, but that just basically then became the thing that Fortnite was, and you can't play what original Fortnite was. I don't think anymore.
Yeah, I think the way that a game like Fortnite or Minecraft is born and rises is just an organic thing. I don't think you can force it. So, trying to force it, I think, is a fool's errand.
No, it's like World of Warcraft. You know, that blew up. Well, and it still exists, and loads of people tried to make, you know, World of Warcraft killers, and you know, where are they? Where are all of them now?
Well, WoW had a lot of things going for it. It had a great starter, you know, IP. It had, I think, the right time, like the whole EverQuest, that kind of stuff was really a resonant theme at the time. So there's a lot of things, a lot of reasons that gave WoW the green light to succeed. And then they did everything right. They focused on developing the game. They released it. They didn't shy away from spending the money. They expanded it. They generally listened to the fans. And I played that game. I played so much WoW. And I've not really played an online game since, really, because they all seem like a forced effort, or they refuse to back it in the right way. Like Fallout 76, I know I've said it a million times. This is number 1,000,001. Fallout 76 could have been as successful to the Fallout franchise as, you know, World of Warcraft was to the Warcraft one. But they just were intent on not succeeding on that level. So, boy, didn't they.
Yeah. One here from... I clicked off it now because Random sent one in at the end. It is from me. It's the alternative UK console top 10. So this is sales figures for the mini consoles, you know, the PlayStation Classic, that kind of thing. They've a couple of lists. One is sorted by total figures, and the other is sorted by week one sales. So I'll let you read most of them, but the fifth best-selling was the Game & Watch, the Super Mario Brothers one from 2 years ago. In fourth place is the Sega Mega Drive Mini. Third place, the Sony PlayStation Classic. Second place, the NES Classic. And in first place, the Super Nintendo Classic.
Yeah.
The PlayStation one seemed to bomb, though, didn't it? I wonder why
Oh,
that's
boy,
three.
did it bomb.
But, well, are they going off like sales figures? Because it bombed and then hit like £5, and then I think they probably sold a lot because people were just going to, like me, went, yeah, I'll spend £5 for some USB PlayStation controllers and something I can sit out and hack.
That's what I wanted to pick one up for, and I still didn't see them that cheap.
Yeah, here in the US, when that PS1 came out, the whole basic idea is, okay, minis, when they started, were in the 30s. Then they went to the 60s. Now it's $100 with nothing on board. Just a couple of shit titles. All right, pass.
Yeah.
Speaking of blowout failed hardware for messing about and hacking, if anyone does see, I've not heard of anything yet, but then I've not really thought to look until recently. But if an Atari VCS does sort of come along and you know, they're firing them out at ridiculously low prices, I would maybe be thinking about picking one of those up for the right price.
To use it as a VCS or to put a pie in it?
Fuck no!
He's gonna put his weed in it.
I'd keep the hardware, but I'd put Linux on it or something. You know, turn it into a little server or some shit.
If anyone does have a couple of those PlayStation USB controllers, I'd be more than grateful. I will buy them if you want to sell them to me. That's fine.
Yeah, you'd have to watch out. They're a bit weird with some things don't work. They don't work as you'd think.
All right.
Sometimes
with a pie.
Well, I think I would press left and it would go left. What if
I
they
would
don't?
hope
Well,
so.
yeah, but like, so I have a funny feeling like Windows just went, I don't know what the fuck this is.
I would use it with RetroPie.
But I've used it on my Pi with RGB Pi, the software for that, which is mostly just based off Emulation Station, I think. So yeah, it should work with a Pi. Obviously, Emulation Station, RetroArch, it kind of expects you to have analog sticks, and things like that, which you don't have. But
although I've set up digital controllers without that. If you're only emulating the older stuff, it's fine.
Yeah, seems to be doing me fine at the moment for stuff.
So speaking of Atari 2600/VCS, there's an official Lego one. It doesn't work obviously, but they are doing a Lego Atari 2600, and they say it will include a molded wood look piece for the front, which Lego kind of does now.
Yeah, be interested to see what they do there, because the NES one was really cool with the TV that you had the sort of the scrolling background that you make, and Mario then jumps through the level. So I wonder.
I don't know if it comes
anything...
with it. Did that have that was a screen though, wasn't it? I don't know. If this is just the console. I don't think it comes with a screen.
How big is it?
I don't think they've said.
It says it's normal size. I think. If I remember.
Really?
Yeah, if I remember right. Let's have a look.
I thought it was just saying that it's sort of gonna come out, but no one knows any official details or anything yet.
It include a Lego rendition of the console itself, said to be roughly the size of the 1977 original.
Wow,
a replica of the joystick.
Yeah,
and
a joystick as well, and a cartridge.
Pitfall.
Yeah. It might be an interesting pickup.
Yeah, I mean, see, that right there, okay, that's a great idea. What do folks like Lego? I'm not a big Lego fan. I'm not even a small Lego fan. I think I built like almost no Lego. But do I kind of like Lego? Yeah. How does Lego get me to buy a product? Oh, what if they made a full-size Atari 2600 that's really cool? Okay. How does Atari get revenue? Hey, what if we partner with Lego and make a pretty cool toy? That's how you do it, okay? This whole business of NFTs and the VCS, the crap fest, that's not how you do it.
Yeah.
Oh, if someone wants to send me an Atari speaker hat as well, I will pay nothing for that.
Speaking of crap products.
Yeah, I was a massive Lego fan. It was my toy of choice as a young kid, so I built loads of it. Had a suitcase full of it. It was great.
Various reasons in my life have meant I've got back into it in the last few years, and yeah, really enjoying dicking around with that again.
I'd pick up an old set. I think that we've said before, the new ones, we need a piece that does this. Well, let's just make one. Whereas before you had to make it yourself out of the blocks, but yeah.
Yeah, I was a bit like that for a while, but I mean, well, it depends on the themes and the sets. I mean, like the new Speed Champions, like the cars, you kind of think, well, there's too many, like, they're not quite bespoke, but there's too many sort of angled pieces that make it too easy to make a nice looking car. But the way they've actually built them are actually quite interesting. They're quite clever in how they're constructed. They're not just kind of basic plonk it all together and then slap a molded skin on it.
Yeah.
So,
Now, I am definitely no Lego expert. I don't want to upset the Lego faithful. So, as I've said, generally a fan, but not a huge buyer or builder of Lego myself. That said, I remember a period of time, and maybe there are multiple periods of time, maybe where Lego's successes were going up or down or something. But I do remember where certain Lego models became almost like some giant molded colored piece that you could then snap on some Lego bits to. And it was just like, that's not Lego building.
Yeah.
And then I did buy, I bought my wife a Millennium Falcon Lego kit, that big one they make, about a year ago. And she built it, and it was pretty cool. I mean, you know, it's not, if I can spend this time and sit there and do something like that, it's going to be something a little different. But it was all Lego parts. I mean, there were some that were printed, and the very few, like, they had like the 3D chess game or the hologram game, whatever, that's in the Millennium Falcon. They were very straightforward. Like, this is a custom piece. It's kind of a cool throw in. The rest of it is all pretty standard Lego bits. So, yeah, I agree. That's, I mean, again, not a prime or even a casual Lego builder, but what I would like to see more of in Lego is exactly that.
So Per Holmström in chat, hi Per, or as you say in Sweden, hi. He says he'll settle for building the CGE Adventures sprites in Lego. We should throw together a kit.
Yeah, should do that.
Oh, I thought he was going to do that. It sounded like he was volunteering.
Yeah, but we'll sell it and make all the money. Well, somebody's selling something here, and they won't get any money from me, but it's sent in by David Gyrick, and it is Final Fantasy figures. Unusually, it's a YouTube video about them, which shows some game footage, and then shows you some huge, intricate models, which you can put on your shelf and look at and say, that's my Final Fantasy model. So that's good. Yeah, it doesn't interest me, but I'm sure it will interest lots of people.
I've definitely always loved building like replica props and stuff. One of the boards I really like to read and hang out on is RPF, Replica Prop Forum. I love freaking replica props. I mean, one of the cool, I'd say, well, they come as a set. The two coolest replica props I ever built was Tom Servo and Crow. And I mean, how cool is that? It's a full-size Tom Servo. It's a full-size Crow, built just like the ones on the screen. So that I think is absolutely fascinating and cool. So I don't know. I mean, when it came out, that Fallout Pip-Boy kit, you could, I mean, it was like a sonic boom between me grabbing the fucking mouse and ordering one. I mean, things like that. I mean, if a video game company wants to make non-video game products, I see a place for that. And certainly, like, I certain ones I would buy. But you got to make the games too. Yeah.
So one we touched on earlier, but David Gyrick has confirmed it. Sonic 2, the movie, is now the highest grossing domestic video game film of all time. Which, as Random alluded to, maybe, would explain why they've delayed Mario till next year.
Yeah. Bit scared. I mean, it could be innocent. It could be that they want to schedule it with another, a Mario game. They want to sort of co-market it. But, oh no, that was the one. It's the Universal Studios Nintendo is set to open about the same sort of time. So perhaps it's all brand synergy. Speaking of brand synergy,
with that kid touching mouse out of the way, maybe they've got a shot at it now.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of brands and fun times, the Atari hotel deal looks to be over.
Imagine that.
Who'd have thought? They have split with the ICICB investment group, which means they've also they've lost. They're getting rid of the licenses for the casinos or something. But it also comes with a big then change in their Atari token, blockchain token, which they're pulling a right SoCal by the looks of things. They're like, anyone who owned some of them before a certain date, we're just going to transfer you over to the new one, and we're going to go off with this new one that's ours, fully ours, and not anything to do with this old thing. So it's like just taking your shares and moving them across here, and moving all your assets around to the other company and sailing off into the sunset. So how long do we think before Tommy Tallarico pops up and says he's being courted for an Intellivision hotel?
Yeah.
I would say days. Wow. Mike, I think there's a second book to be had here. How to fail at bringing things to market. I mean, holy shit.
1,001. It's from the 1,001 things, 1,001 ways to fail.
Yeah. 1,001 ways to fail before you die.
I am just stunned. I mean, the Atari thing, like we always have to go through this ridiculous arc, though. I guess I have to say I'm pretty annoyed at always having to go down these roads. Like my initial inclination reaction on these things is to go, fuck it, waste of time to talk about. But it's the current topical news of that IP. And then it always comes out, always, after a period of time, oh yeah, that didn't work out. And you can tell from looking at it, first blush, it ain't going to work out. And that's what fucking baffles me is how do they not see that the inevitable failure is right there? I mean, is it not as obvious to them as it is to me? I guess not. Otherwise they wouldn't have tried. But holy shit, how obvious is that?
Yeah. I think there will be an Amico book. It won't be me that writes it, but I think we'll see one at some point.
I know a guy.
Yeah. So, final one, I think, here from Charlie. Thank you, Charlie. And he calls it Finally. So, how apt. It's about Ghostbusters. The Sega Genesis Ghostbusters game is finally seeing the addition of character Winston... What's his name? Winston Zeddemore. The words shoe and horn spring to mind, but he's there as a playable character now if you want him. And we can all rest easy. So thank you for that, Charlie. I haven't played Ghostbusters in a long time.
No, I haven't. I was thinking of watching the films again.
I've only ever seen the
months ago,
original film.
but-
I've not watched any of the sequels or remakes or whatever.
I've definitely watched 1 and 2, but not. I don't really remember the great deal of them. Yeah, and I never did watch any of the newer ones.
I was never a huge fan of the first one. I mean, it was good. It was massive at the time, obviously, as were the games, but I don't know, I wasn't blown away by it. It was all right, but it didn't live up to the hype. I think that was the problem, because it was literally everywhere. And no film could have lived up to that, I don't think.
But Butler certainly wasn't a fan, was he?
He wasn't. And Twitter became angry at him. Yeah. So, we are out of news.
We are.
And we must go because Scott has to record a hardware flashback.
Actually, I do.
So,
I'll have to finish it.
yes. So, thank you for joining us. Some joined us in chat. Some came and went. Per turned up about 20 minutes ago, and now we're going. And he says the latest Ghostbusters is better than the female version. I had no doubt about that.
Oh, Afterlife?
I assume he means that.
Yeah, that. I thought we had talked about that.
No.
I saw it. I just have to say that I think it's a worthy sequel to the original movies. It was good. There weren't any huge cringe moments. It was, I thought the ending was exceptionally good. The way they sort of blended in the guys that had passed away. And that's always kind of a weird thing, especially given their usual propensity to screw things up.
Mm-hmm.
That when they actually just did it and it made sense and it wasn't forced and it was like a tribute in a way. I was blown away. I had to like say, all right, well, shit, you guys got this one right.
Okay, and on that note, thank you for anyone who joined us live. Thank you for listening to the podcast. We will, of course, be back in about a month with another one, so stay tuned for that. And don't forget the hilarious end of show clip. It's a good one this month, even though I don't know what it is yet. So we will see all of y'all next month, and I will hit this button to stop the stream in